I am an 8-tailed purple fox, and my husband is also an 8-tailed purple fox, yet we gave birth to a 6-tailed blue fox. He was furious, suspecting that my 8-tailed fox bloodline was impure. He insisted on taking the newborn fox cub and me to the bloodline pool, a special place in the fox clan for testing bloodlines. The incident caused an uproar throughout the entire fox clan. The final result was that the fox cub was his biological child, while my bloodline remained pure, surprisingly. Upon seeing the results, he suddenly changed from his previous anger and asked me to take the fox cub back to the manor first. His reason was that he and the elder of the bloodline pool, his father, Elder June, had important matters to discuss. Feeling puzzled, I left with the fox cub afterward, but I left behind the Shadowflow stone my father had given me. It was during this stay that I learned his secret. Corbin is not an 8-tailed purple fox. Meanwhile, news that my sister had borne an 8-tailed purple fox to the husband of the 7-tailed red fox spread instantly throughout the entire fox clan. After snapping out of my thoughts about Corbin, I originally intended to go find my father, but I was stopped by Corbin, who returned to the manor in a rage, and he directly locked both me and the fox cub in the dungeon. He knew I had the royal decree to contact my father, the king. He directly used forbidden magic to set up a barrier, cutting off my connection to my father the king and the queen mother. Callista, aren't you an 8-tailed fox? Why did you only give birth to a 6-tailed one, while your sister had an 8-tailed one? It's your fault. Not only are you useless, but you also stole forbidden techniques, so what if I learned them? The useless one is you. It's you. Corbin was driven mad by the word useless and tortured me until I had only one breath left. Later, they killed the fox cub right in front of me, causing my already weakened self to be unable to bear the shock and die from sheer rage. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day of the husband selection. Corbin immediately opposed my father's proposal for him to marry me, choosing my sister instead of me. I instantly realized that he had also been reborn, but this time, I want to see how many tails Corbin, a mere 3-tailed green fox, can grow without my help. Corbin, have you really thought this through? In my days, my father's icy, furious voice pierced straight into my mind. Memories from my past life flashed before my eyes one by one. I suddenly snapped back to reality, raising my hand to lightly touch my forehead, only to realize it was already covered in cold sweat. Wiping away the cold sweat, I looked at the familiar grand hall before me, unable to suppress the excitement in my heart. Had I been reborn? Corbin, you are the second 8-tailed purple fox among the younger generation of our fox clan. After Callista, uniting with me, Callista, is the most likely way for our clan to produce a 9-tailed fox. What are you doing now, Your Majesty? I have no interest in Princess Callista. My heart has always belonged to the eldest princess. I beg Your Majesty to grant me permission to be with Princess Aloan. A familiar yet resolute voice echoed through the grand hall. Following the sound, my gaze met Corbin's fleeting look of disdain and resentment as he knelt in the center of the hall. Recalling his words just now, I sneered inwardly. Sure enough, he had also been reborn. The tragic scenes from my past life flashed through my mind, and I closed my eyes in pain. Since he's so eager, I'll grant him his wish. Father, since he's so enamored with my sister, let's grant them their wish. As for giving birth to the 9-tails bloodline, we've waited 10,000 years already. What's the rush now? I opened my eyes and spoke in a calm tone. Very well. Father will listen to you. The Fox King frowned, about to refuse, but after a moment's thought, he agreed. Aloan, what do you think? Are you willing? The Fox King looked at Aloan and asked, this child is willing. Father, what if your husband isn't as good as you imagine? Are you sure you won't regret it? Sister, I suddenly turned my gaze to Aloan kneeling beside Corbin and asked in a serious tone, I will never regret it. Aloan met my eyes with unwavering determination. I couldn't help but sneer inwardly. Fine. Let her experience for herself whether it's boundless riches or an abyss of despair. Callista, how about choosing this Lennon then? He's not too bad either, the king's doting voice inquired. I glanced at Lennon before looking away, turning to hold the Fox King's arm as I spoke. Father, let's stop here for today. Your daughter is still young and doesn't want to marry yet. I want to spend more time with you and Mother. Very well, very well. We'll do as Callista says. My Callista deserves only the very best when she marries, although Lennon is good too. It's fine if we don't choose him. The Fox King pondered for a moment and quickly came to a realization. Callista was the most outstanding and beloved fox cub under his care. How could he have considered choosing a 7-tailed fox as her mate? He must have been confused. All right, let's end today's mate selection here. Everyone may return now. After speaking, the Fox King left the grand hall, leaving only me, Corbin, and Aloan behind in the momentarily silent chamber. Having nothing to say, I was about to leave the hall when Corbin suddenly called out to me, his voice brimming with smug triumph. Your Highness Callista, you must attend the wedding in 7 days. This humble subject dearly wishes to receive your blessing. Before I could respond, Aloan immediately interjected, Yes, little sister. I'm also looking forward to receiving your blessings. Got it. Is there anything else? I said indifferently. Corbin was disappointed because I didn't show the level of disappointment he had anticipated. I sneered inwardly. What a fool. Did he really think I liked him in my past life? Ridiculous. Corbin wanted to say more, but I didn't want to listen anymore and turned to leave the hall. Seeing this, Corbin's face darkened with anger, and he also turned to leave without regard for Aloan still standing there. Aloan watched Corbin's departing figure, gnashing her teeth in hatred. Callista. It was always Callista. Since childhood, no matter what it was, she had always been better and more dazzling than her. She refused to accept defeat. This time, she was determined to give birth to the nine-tailed fox before that wretched girl Callista, no matter the cost. The 7th day after the husband selection was Corbin and Aloan's wedding, and during these 7 days, I had combed through all the ancient texts in our clan. Finally, I found useful information in an ancient tome. Ancient texts mention that not far behind the Fox King's palace lies a sacred mountain. This sacred mountain is the greatest secret of each Fox King's reign, for the existence and location of this sacred mountain are known and accessible only to the direct lineage of the Fox King. Thus, this was also the reason why my father, the king, no longer allowed me to choose a husband during the spouse selection ceremony. First, it doesn't match, and second, it's the nine-tailed white fox from the Jiuhua cave of the Divine Mountain. Legend has it that the Divine Mountain of the Fox clan has existed for tens of thousands of years, or even longer, meaning the mountain predates the Fox clan itself. The Divine Mountain is rich in spiritual energy, with magical herbs covering its slopes, making it a treasure mountain. This is why the Fox clan built the Fox King's palace not far from the Divine Mountain. At the heart of the Divine Mountain lies a cave abode with the most concentrated spiritual energy, named the Nine Splendors Cave. Within the cave dwelled a powerful nine-tailed white fox, though the area around the cavern was protected by a formidable barrier, preventing anyone from approaching. I figured since I wanted to bear a nine-tailed fox, why not directly find one to mate with instead of wasting time selecting a husband and gambling on probabilities? Coincidentally, the Fox King thought the same, so father and daughter reached an agreement instantly. He directly decided to let me enter the sacred mountain with the Fox Clan King's decree to search for the nine-tailed elder. After discussing with my father, I decided to enter the sacred mountain after Aloan's wedding to find the Jiuhua cave. The day after the wedding ended, I packed my things and was about to leave the palace for the sacred mountain. Suddenly, I saw Corbin leading Aloan to stand right in front of me. I had no choice but to stop and glare at them coldly. What business do you have stopping me? What kind of talk is this? Sister, you got married yesterday, and though I attended, you were busy yesterday. Sister, it seems I haven't yet congratulated you on your joyous marriage. My sister spoke softly while leaning into Corbin's embrace, her eyes looking at me triumphantly, full of provocation. Oh, then I wish my sister and her royal consort a swift conception of nine-tailed lineage for our Fox clan, to strengthen our people. At least you know your place. After I finished speaking, I didn't bother with whatever Aloan replied, just gave Corbin a meaningful glance before quickly striding past the two of them. Corbin felt his heart tighten under my gaze, yet maintained a composed expression, then turned around and spoke coldly and disdainfully to my retreating figure. Callista, your sister, and I will surely produce the most noble fox cub in the clan, while you, never in this lifetime. Oh, I lazily replied with a single word. Who knows where Corbin got his confidence from? In her past life, she went through so much just to give birth to a nine-tailed bloodline. She even asked the Queen Mother for secret techniques to awaken the nine-tailed bloodline. After expending most of her spiritual energy, she thought that even if she couldn't get 9 tails, she should at least get 8. The result was only a single 6-tailed blue fox cub, yet I never doubted the purity of his lineage. He, on the other hand, had the audacity to suspect both me and the fox cub first. Fox clans are divided into 9 ranks, from highest to lowest, 9 tails to 1 tail, with colors being white for 9 tails, purple for 8 tails, crimson for 7 tails, and blue for 6 tails, orange for 5 tails, gray for 4 tails, green for 3 tails, yellow for 2 tails, and pink for 1 tail. A natural 3-tailed fox who only advanced to 8 tails by relying on forbidden dark arts to evade heavenly lightning, still complaining that a natural 6-tailed fox cub's rank is too low, saying my bloodline is impure. Ridiculous. Corbin's face turned black with anger. Callista, that bitch. He'd like to see how many tails her fox can grow in this lifetime without him. Corbin, after I left, I activated my spiritual power and set off. A quarter of an hour later, I arrived at the foot of the Divine Mountain. Gazing at the Divine Mountain shrouded in white mist like a fairyland, I suddenly felt as if something was calling to me. Puzzled, I took a step forward, just about to enter the Divine Mountain when an unexpected change occurred. My body was enveloped by a sudden burst of white light. Just as I was about to speak, I fell unconscious the next second, and my body vanished from the spot. When I woke up, I found myself lying on a smooth stone bed covered with soft white fur. I was also covered with some unknown animal's fur, pure white and very soft. Startled, I quickly sat up and looked around through the white gauze curtains. To my astonishment, this cave dwelling seems to be the Jiuhua cave described in ancient texts. My luck is just too unbelievable. I hadn't even started searching, and here I am inside at the moment I opened my eyes. As I pondered, I prepared to get off the stone bed to see if the nine-tailed fox elder might be in the cave, but just as I lifted the gauze curtain and my left foot touched the soft floor mat, a deep, magnetic voice sounded right by my right ear. "You're awake." Startled by the voice, I jerked my left foot back and abruptly released the gauze curtain I was holding. My head instinctively turned to the right. There I saw a strikingly handsome man dressed in white robes, his long silver hair cascading freely. A fiery red teardrop-shaped mark adorned the man's forehead, lending his celestial beauty a touch of demonic charm. He was currently looking at me with a smile on his face. I was momentarily stunned, but quickly regained my composure. It's not like I'm not a beauty myself. Ezra's smile grew even more pronounced as he observed my frustrated expression. A pleasant male voice rang out, "Little fox, is this Fox Clan King's token yours? What's your name?" "My name is Callista, the legitimate princess of the Fox Clan. The king's token was given to me by my father," I replied politely. "Callista, have you come of age? How many tails were you born with?" Ezra asked me again, this time with more amusement in his voice. "I've come of age, just turned 1,000 this year, with 8 tails." I continued answering softly and honestly, 1,000 years old. Born with 8 tails, quite remarkable potential. So are you the legendary nine-tailed fox elder? I stared at Wanling lying utterly still in his hands, my voice tinged with urgency, because Wanling would only tremble in fear, frozen motionless, when held by a nine-tailed fox. "What do you think? Not just anyone can stay in this Jiuhua cave." When I heard this, I was overjoyed. It really was Elder Ninetails. This trip wasn't in vain. "Elder Ninetails, may I ask you for a favor?" I looked at Ezra with hopeful eyes, asking in a soft, sweet voice, "Speak." He didn't refuse. Practice dual cultivation with me. I could no longer care about whether it was embarrassing or not. Cough, cough. "What did you say?" Ezra was shocked by my words, his face full of astonishment, his ears turning completely red. Such an innocent old fox. Ezra was indeed a bit startled, although he had some thoughts. He had planned to take things step by step, never expected this little fox to be so, well, passionately fiery. I was a bit nervous at first, but seeing QB's reaction, I suddenly wasn't nervous anymore. In fact, I felt terrifyingly strong. Without waiting for QB to react, I directly reached up both hands and hugged around his waist. The moment I hugged him, I felt his body stiffen, then he immediately reacted. Trying to pull my hands away from his waist, I won't let go. I'm holding on even tighter. "Callista, what are you doing? Let go now." Ezra's voice had grown hoarse. "I won't let go. Ninetails, look into my eyes. Can you honestly say you don't feel anything for Callista?" I blinked my eyes, gazing at Ninetails with a watery, pleading look. The voice was also deliberately made pitiful and endearing. "I refuse to believe I can't win over this old fox." Ezra was left speechless by my question because he did indeed have feelings for her. Otherwise, he wouldn't have used magic to bring her to Jiuhua Cave before she even set foot on the sacred mountain. "No regrets. I'm an old fox who's many years your senior." Ezra's hands stopped moving as he looked down at me, his voice hoarse. "No regrets. An old fox has his own merits. So, Elder Ninetails, when can we cultivate together?" I asked him with a laugh while nestled in his arms, hearing my words. Ezra also laughed, his previously resting hands reaching out to pull me into his embrace. Then he whispered softly in my ear, "Callista, you don't need to call me Ninetails anymore, just call me Ezra. As for dual cultivation, when would Callista like to do it?" Hearing this, my eyes lit up. This was promising. I got up from his embrace, then gave him a push. Ezra fell onto the stone bed behind him, following my momentum. "Of course, the sooner the better," I said to Ezra with a faint smile. His eyes were a strikingly beautiful golden color, now filled with the fire and allure of passion. They were staring directly, intently at me. "This old fox is damnably seductive," I thought with a myriad of emotions. After sighing with emotion, I plopped right onto Ezra's lap, accidentally landing on an inappropriate spot. Drawing a muffled groan from him, the rims of his eyes began reddening too. My face feigned innocence while my heart was bursting with glee. The old fox was getting flustered. The next second, Ezra's hand gripped my slender waist. In a swift motion, our positions reversed, him on top, me beneath. "Callista, you started this first, don't beg for mercy later." I was just about to retort with a few words. "MMPH, Ezra's scorching, domineering kiss cut me off, and soon, we were lost in the pleasures of passion. A night of spring is worth 1,000 pieces of gold." Humans really do have a way with words, and so Ezra and I spent 3 entire months entwined in passion within these Johwa caves. During these 3 months, our feelings for each other grew intensely. I also learned the secret my mother had mentioned before I came to the Divine Mountain. It turns out I carry the bloodline of the Ninetales, but it had been sealed away. Only a powerful individual with the same bloodline can break my seal. Originally, the Queen Mother intended to use a secret technique to release my seal. But such methods ultimately harm the body, and Ezra is the perfect candidate. It was at this time that the Fox King sent a message through the royal decree, announcing that my dear sister was pregnant. It's possible the child carries the Ninetales bloodline. Leaning against Ezra's chest, I secretly sneered, I've finally conceived. Now it's time to return to the palace. After all, I'm also a player in this drama. With this thought, I looked up at Ezra, about to speak when suddenly, ugh. I was overcome with nausea and dry heaved. Hearing this, Ezra immediately asked what was wrong. I shook my head, indicating it was nothing, only to dry heave again the next second. Ezra frowned anxiously at the sight, holding me in his arms with heartache in his eyes. After calming down, I leaned weakly against Ezra's chest. Suddenly I remembered the symptoms I had during my previous pregnancy, also nausea and dry heaving. Could it be? Am I pregnant? Thinking this, I quickly channeled my spiritual power to probe my abdomen. Soon, I could feel the intense life force within my belly. Seeing my movement, Ezra seemed to have guessed something. When I looked at him, I met his golden eyes full of anticipation. Congratulations, Ezra, you're going to be a father. I smiled as I congratulated Ezra. Ezra laughed, his joy evident as he carefully placed his large hand on my belly, gently caressing it. A slightly choked voice sounded by my ear. Thank you, Callista. This is my first child in 20,000 years. Before meeting you, I never imagined I'd have the chance to become a father one day. Old fox, don't you dare cry now. Your Highness is carrying fox cubs and easily affected. If you cry, I'll cry too. All right. I'm just overwhelmed. Not crying. Besides nausea, is Callista feeling any other discomfort? No, I'm just a bit hungry. I want to eat fish, roasted chicken. I want to eat everything. All right. I'll satisfy all of Callista's wishes. Ezra lovingly kissed my forehead and spoke in a gentle voice. Oh right, Ezra, I've been at the Divine Mountain for 3 months already. It's time I return to the Fox King's palace. Go back, by yourself. What about me then, Callista? You can't just love me and leave me. As soon as Ezra finished speaking urgently, I immediately slapped him lightly on the head the next second. What are you thinking? Have you read too many human storybooks? Of course. I'm taking you back with me. You're the fox cub's father after all. Just the fox cub's father. Huh. Ezra looked at me with a pitiful expression after hearing this. Of course, you're also my man, my future king consort. Gotta spoil your own man. If he wants recognition, just give it to him. I'm yours. Ezra cheered up. All right. The old fox is so easy to please. Then can we go back tomorrow? Of course. Let's eat first. You're eating for 2 now. Can't go hungry. While speaking, Ezra gently lifted me out of his embrace, settled me comfortably, then went to prepare food for me. Watching his tall, straight-backed figure, I touched my belly, my face overflowing with a blissful smile. Having him in this lifetime is truly wonderful. Early the next morning, Ezra and I rose early, had a quick meal, then departed Johwa Cave directly for the Fox King's palace, with the old fox around. Returning to the Fox King's palace was a matter of minutes, in less than a quarter of an hour. The two arrived at the main hall of the palace, the Qingqiu Hall. As soon as they arrived, the Fox King and Queen came forward to greet them warmly, inquiring about their well-being. The 2 elders initially intended to pay respects to Ezra, despite him being only 20,000 years old, but after all, he is a 9-tailed white fox, the most noble bloodline of the Fox clan, but Ezra refused, saying that he was now just my husband, the son-in-law of the Fox King and Queen, and how could a son-in-law let his parents-in-law bow to him? The Fox King and Queen were persuaded, and this little episode passed. Then the 4 of them began chatting about family matters, and the Fox King mentioned that members of the Fox clan had been disappearing recently, but they couldn't find out who was behind it. And I immediately thought of the forbidden technique Corbin used in his previous life. Father, when Corbin had his bloodline tested, the bloodline pool showed he was born as an 8-tailed purple fox. Correct. Yes, your mother and I, along with all the elders, were present. Was there anything unusual about it? No. Why do you ask, Callista? Do you suspect Corbin? Yes. Go investigate his mother and Elder June from the bloodline pool. Understood. The Fox King also seemed to have thought of something. Responding with a solemn expression, after the conversation ended, Ezra and I returned to the bedchamber. Soon, news spread throughout the Fox clan that I had safely returned to the palace from the Divine Mountain while pregnant, bringing back tidings of a six-tailed fox husband. On the third day back at the palace, the Corbins couldn't wait to come knocking at our door. What else could it be? They were just here to mock and ridicule me. After all, I'm only carrying a six-tailed fox child. While theirs might be a nine-tailed fox, when Corbin and Eloan arrived, I was resting with my eyes closed on the chaise lounge beneath the crabapple tree. Ezra sat on the round stool beside me, occasionally feeding me fruits. Little sister, what's troubling you? Not being able to find elder nine-tails in the sacred mountain is one thing, but how could you settle for a six-tailed fox? Exactly, and even got pregnant. The second prince is truly degrading himself. The voice arrived before the person did, quite the act. As the words fell, Corbin and Eloan's figures finally appeared beneath the crabapple tree. The two spotted Ezra at first glance, for his striking beauty was truly eye-catching. Eloan was stunned. He was even more handsome than Corbin. What a pity, just a six-tailed fox. Eloan averted her gaze, her eyes filled with disdain. Corbin's complexion didn't look too good either. Despite his self-proclaimed title as the most handsome man in the Fox clan, I opened my eyes, but only gave them a faint glance before saying nothing. Those two idiots somehow flew into a rage, taking my silence as contempt, and immediately started spewing all sorts of vulgar insults. The look in Ezra's eyes beside me had turned ice-cold, but I stopped him from taking action. I remained silent, waiting until they grew tired of speaking before leisurely responding with a few words. May I ask what you two are in such a hurry about? Weren't you both very confident in your own children? What's the matter? Could it be that the fox cub in your belly, sister, isn't even as good as my six-tailed fox cub? My gaze drifted lightly onto Eloan's belly, though I clearly hadn't done anything, but the faces of those two instantly turned noticeably paler. Eloan also instinctively covered her stomach with her hand, her gaze becoming unfocused. It was as if they had thought of something unpleasant. I wanted to say something more. Corbin and Eloan hastily left my chambers first. Watching their panicked retreat, I chuckled and muttered, utterly clueless. The moment I finished speaking, Ezra vanished from my side, but he returned shortly after. Vent done, I smirked at the man while teasing him. My wife Ezra and our fox cub are not subjects for others to gossip about or insult. Yes, don't worry. The day our fox cub is born will be the day of their demise. They truly deserve death, one for practicing forbidden arts and enhancing cultivation by slaughtering their own kin, the other, to give birth to a nine-tailed fox, didn't hesitate to harm themselves using evil forbidden arts, defying the natural order. They were simply partners in crime, deserving of death. The day after Ezra returned to the palace, he and his father thoroughly investigated Corbin's background. They discovered that Corbin's deceased mother had partial witch lineage, and witches were most skilled in forbidden arts. Corbin's eight-tailed bloodline was temporarily altered using forbidden arts, with the help of his father who is a bloodline pool elder. Creating an innate eight-tailed bloodline is simple enough, but maintaining this forbidden technique requires the power support of the same clan, and so, the Fox clan members became the source of his sustained power. Ezra was furious. Never expecting the Fox clan to have fallen to such a state, once one of the three great demon clans that produced talents generation after generation, how unpredictable fate can be. I looked at Ezra's gloomy face, knowing exactly what was on his mind. With a gentle smile, I comforted him softly. All right, things may be bleak now, but you still have us. Trust me, the Fox clan will surely return to its former glory. Ezra gave me a tender smile and softly replied with a quiet time flies. And soon 7 months had passed. Both my sister and I reached our due dates for childbirth. We were supposed to give birth on the same day, but my sister's labor was delayed because Corbin went to the brothel to have fun with a seductive fox spirit. Corbin even brought that fox spirit back to the mansion and took her as his concubine. Not only that, but the concubine would flaunt her status in front of my sister every day. Just today, that concubine made another scene. An elder sister was directly provoked. This caused her emotions to fluctuate too violently, advancing the delivery date by a full 5 days, resulting in premature birth. At the Corbin residence, in the reception hall, the Fox King, Fox Queen, and the clan elders were all present. Ezra and I were also there, seated beside our father, looking down imperiously at Corbin kneeling in the center of the hall. The expressions on all the elders' faces were quite grim, after all. The fox cub in Eloan's belly might be a nine-tailed fox, though where that confidence comes from is anyone's guess, but now it's been provoked into premature birth, and it was the cub's own father who did this despicable deed. Corbin, aren't you going to explain yourself to this king? The Fox King fixed Corbin with a piercing vulpine stare. Your Majesty, I have nothing to say in my defense. Visiting the brothel and taking a concubine are all true facts. I beg for your punishment. With these words, Corbin bowed his head deeply, showing full sincerity in his remorse. Father, let it be. After all, he is the father of your grandchild. Just dispose of that concubine to vent my sister's anger, that should suffice. As I spoke, I turned the question back to Corbin. What do you think, brother-in-law? By now Corbin had raised his head, his eyes filled with a chilling coldness upon hearing my proposal. Ignoring him, I continued to gaze at him with a beaming smile. In the past life, Corbin doted on that glamorous concubine as if she were the apple of his eye. You ask why? Of course, it was because that glamorous concubine and Corbin grew up together as childhood sweethearts, even secretly pledging their lives to each other. Moreover, she particularly admired him, greatly satisfying his vanity. When old flames reunite, it's like dry wood meeting fierce fire, their passion reignites. I have no objections, Corbin said, then closed his eyes resentfully. Just a concubine, dead or alive, it matters little. Once he ascends as Fox King, any vixen would be his for the taking. When I opened my eyes again, they were calm and unruffled. Callista, once Eloin gives birth to the nine-tailed fox and I ascend to the throne as the Fox King, by then, you must die. Guards, dispose of the concubine. The Fox King commanded directly, as you wish. After this small episode passed, the reception room fell silent again. As they waited, 3 hours passed by. Wah, wah, wah. 3 loud cries resounded throughout the mansion. Accompanying the cries were colorful auspicious clouds filling the sky and a faint floral fragrance in the air. Colorful auspicious clouds, 100 flowers bloom. The fox people kneel in worship. The nine-tailed bloodline has been born. The crowd in the hall shouted excitedly. The hope of the Fox clan has finally been born. The Fox King and Queen also wore joyful expressions. Your Majesty, let us first go see what this nine-tailed cub looks like. Well, go ahead. As the Fox King finished speaking, the elders left the living room and headed toward the delivery room. As for me and Ezra, on the surface, I appeared deeply hurt, as if deeply affected, while Ezra looked at me with heartfelt sympathy, comforting me. Actually, we were whispering to each other. Daddy, was your birth scene like this when you came into the world? No, it was even grander. This doesn't compare to mine at all. You're amazing. Will our little fox cub have the same grand entrance as you did? Yes, because his mother is also a nine-tailed fox, so our cub's birth will be even more magnificent. But Callista, even if our fox cub isn't a born nine-tailed fox cub, he's still our child, isn't he? Ezra's words warmed my heart. I gently stroked my pregnant belly and said, yes. As long as he can be born healthy, I'll be at ease. Let me grieve for a while. That Mr. June is looking at me again. All right, Ezra responded to me with both doting and helplessness. Corbin gazed at the phenomenon, his eyes filled with ecstasy. A nine-tailed fox. Ha ha ha. Soon he would become the Fox King, the most revered figure in the entire Fox clan. Callista, your time of death is approaching. Corbin looked at me, utterly heartbroken and disbelieving, as I lay in Ezra's arms. His voice was full of provocation. Your Highness Callista, look. My nine-tailed fox cub has been born, while your fox cub, at best, will only have 7 or 8 tails. Ha ha ha. After saying this, seeing that I seemed even more heartbroken, he burst into laughter again. Corbin, that's enough. Mind your language, the Fox King said calmly. Yes, I was too excited and forgot my manners. I beg your Majesty's forgiveness. The Fox King ignored him further as the elders who went to see the nine-tailed fox cub returned. They all wore joyful expressions. Clearly very satisfied with the cub. Your Majesty, the fox cub is very healthy, and its bloodline is exceptionally pure. There is hope for our fox clan to restore its former glory. Nonsense. That's Ezra's genuine nine-tailed fox bloodline. How could it not be pure? I rolled my eyes hard in my heart. Very well. Corbin, tomorrow, you and Eloin shall return to live in the palace. There are more people in the palace, and the care is more meticulous, which will better suit the fox cub. Moreover, I've said that whoever gives birth to the nine-tailed fox shall become the new Fox King and Queen of the Fox clan. Therefore, returning to the palace would make it more convenient to hold the ceremony. Yes, your subject shall dutifully obey His Majesty's command. After speaking, the Fox King assigned several attendants to Corbin before departing for the Fox Palace with the Queen and the elders. I couldn't be bothered to deal with that lunatic Corbin either. The objective was achieved anyway. And Ezra and I returned to the palace. This time Corbin didn't stop us, just watched us with a heavy gaze. Soon, 5 days passed, and I gave birth as expected. As for Corbin and Eloin, they were in complete panic because the Forbidden Techniques time limit was approaching. Only 8 hours remained. Not only that, but the coronation ceremony is also set to begin in 8 hours. Meanwhile, in the delivery room, I was in so much pain I was nearly numb, yet the baby still hadn't arrived. Outside the door, Ezra's eyes turned red with heartache as he listened to my cries of pain. Callista, please let me come in and see you. Okay, I heard him, but I didn't have the strength to answer. In this agonizing time, only half an hour remained before the ceremony. With one final push in the delivery room, I let out a loud cry. Ah, wah, wah, wah. The sound of vigorous crying echoed through heaven and earth. It's born. The second prince is born. The midwife's delighted voice rang out. Upon hearing that cry, I completely collapsed from exhaustion. The heavens and earth also changed color when that cry resounded. Phoenixes sang in unison, dragons roared in celebration, colorful clouds filled the sky, spiritual rain fell, flowers bloomed in profusion with their fragrance permeating the air, and all beasts bowed in submission. This is the proper spectacle befitting the birth of a nine-tailed fox cub. The Fox clan members gazed at the grand celestial phenomenon, voicing their doubts one after another. Didn't the nine-tailed fox cub already born 5 days ago? What's the meaning of this new phenomenon? Could there possibly be 2 nine-tailed cubs in their fox clan? Just as everyone was still puzzled, the fox king and queen, witnessing the grand celestial phenomenon, were already ecstatic with joy. The true nine-tailed bloodline of their fox clan had finally been born. It was also time for their plan to come to fruition. When I woke up, Ezra was sitting by the bed holding the fox cub, keeping me company. Seeing me awake, Ezra's eyes lit up as he first reached up to gently tidy my hair, then he lowered his head to kiss my forehead before helping me sit up against the headboard, his voice filled with tenderness and gratitude as he said, "You've worked hard, Callista. Are you still feeling unwell anywhere?" "I'm fine, feeling good. How's the little fox cub?" I asked softly. "The fox cub is very good, very well behaved. Take a look," Ezra said, extending his large hand to gently place the sleeping fox cub into my arms. I held the soft little bundle carefully, my gaze tenderly resting on the white, fluffy fox cub in my arms. "The cub's fox form looks exactly like yours," I said, looking up at Ezra. Ezra listened to my words and smiled gently. "It's identical. The cub knows exactly how to grow, understanding what mother likes," Ezra said while giving me a meaningful look, his eyes full of teasing. "So what? I just like it." I wasn't angry because it was true. I really did like Ezra's fox form. "Yes, as long as Callista likes it," Ezra responded dotingly. "By the way, is the ceremony about to start soon?" "Yes. Shall we go now?" "Of course. Those two must be furious." Just as I guessed, Corbin and Eloan went mad with rage when they found out I gave birth to a nine-tailed fox, especially since the time limit of the forbidden technique was approaching. Both of them were on the verge of collapse. That bitch Callista actually dared to deceive them. "Corbin, how can you just accept this? The Fox King's throne that was almost within our grasp is about to slip away," Eloan said bitterly while sitting by the bed. "Of course I'm not willing. So what if they gave birth to a nine-tailed fox? I'll make their cubs become nourishment for mine. Perhaps if the fox cub devours that wretch's child, it could truly become a nine-tailed fox." Corbin couldn't help but entertain this possibility. After all, the reason he transformed from a 3-tailed green fox into today's 8-tailed purple fox was none other than forbidden arts. Wasn't it precisely because he'd also devoured many high-ranking foxes? If he can, why can't his fox cub? As Eloan listened to Corbin's thoughts, she naturally recalled how Corbin became an 8-tailed purple fox, the thought that she married a lowly 3-tailed green fox by birth, while that wretch Callista's husband was a noble 9-tailed white fox. She hated, she envied. What right did Callista have? "Since I, Eloan, can't have the best, then I'll destroy it." "All right, let's hurry to the Great Hall then." Soon, the Qingqiu Palace was filled with people. The Fox King and Queen, the clan elders. There were also representatives from the Dragon Clan, Phoenix Clan, and other factions. Our family of 3 and Corbin's family of 3 have also arrived. We stood facing each other, with Corbin and Eloan glaring at us fiercely. Seeing everyone assembled, the Fox King immediately declared the coronation ceremony begun. One ritual after another proceeded, until finally reaching the final segment, the coronation of the new king and queen. Just as Corbin and Eloan were walking toward the throne with smiles on their faces, suddenly, the fox cub that had been quietly nestled in Eloan's arms began struggling violently. Its body also emitted a blinding red-black light, which the people in the grand hall stared at. Their expressions changed drastically as they screamed in terror. "Forbidden magic! It's forbidden magic!" Corbin and Eloan's faces also began to show panic, and Eloan's grip loosened slightly due to fright. This directly caused the fox cub in her arms to leap onto the ground with a forceful jump. As soon as it landed, the wrapped blanket came loose, and the red-black glow dissipated. What appeared before everyone was not a 9-tailed white fox, but a 4-tailed gray fox. How is this just a 4-tailed gray fox? Wasn't it said to be of 9-tailed lineage? Indeed, and it appears they even used forbidden arts to attain this 9-tailed form. How utterly absurd! Has the Fox clan fallen so low that they resort to forbidden techniques to forge nine-tailed bloodlines? Absolutely. The Fox King remained utterly unfazed by this scene, not uttering a word as he silently observed. The crowd buzzed with discussion, their mocking and disdainful gazes all falling upon Corbin and Eloan as the parents. Corbin's eyes burned with surging hatred and madness as each taunting word struck him. Eloan was no less affected, trembling with rage from head to toe. The next second, Corbin suddenly turned around, pointing his sword at the crowd in the hall and roared, "Shut up, all of you." Everyone was frightened by his frenzied appearance, and the hall instantly fell silent. Seeing this, Ezra shielded me and the cub behind him, extending his right hand as a pure white longsword materialized in his grasp. I knew that was his lifebound weapon. What do you know? Corbin, will definitely be the new Fox King. The only nine-tailed fox in the Fox clan. As he spoke, Corbin reached out and pulled the trembling fox cub into his grasp. He said ominously, "You don't need to become a nine-tailed fox either, I'm more suitable." With that, he directly drained the cub's spiritual energy. In just a few seconds, the cub turned into a desiccated corpse. Eloan was stunned by the sight before her, then snapped back to reality and channeled her spiritual energy to strike at Corbin. Without turning around, Corbin unleashed a surge of spiritual energy with his left hand, instantly severely injuring Eloan. Eloan let out a cry as she was sent flying, spitting several mouthfuls of blood before snarling viciously, "Corbin, may you die a wretched death. You're nothing but a lowly three-tailed green fox, yet you dare dream of using forbidden arts to make me bear nine-tailed bloodline. Absolutely ridiculous. Now you've even killed the child I fought so hard to bring into this world, just to achieve the nine tails for yourself. Disgusting, preposterous. You still don't know, do you? The forbidden technique was his doing, and those fallen clansmen of the Fox tribe were also his handiwork. Everything he did was to become a nine-tailed fox. What? Corbin, you're nothing but a demon, a devil. You're utterly unworthy of being a member of our Fox clan." The Fox clan members shouted angrily in fury. After hearing Eloan and the clansmen's words, Corbin wasn't angry. Instead, he laughed, but in the next second, his sword moved. It flew straight toward Eloan with lightning speed, piercing her heart in one strike. Eloan died, noisy, with a reach of his hand. The sword returned to his grasp. "Yes, I did it all. So what? So what if I, Corbin, am a three-tailed fox? Soon I'll be the noble nine-tailed fox. To become the exalted king of the Fox clan, I'll make you all grovel at my feet and be my slaves. In your dreams," I shouted angrily. Corbin, lost in his fantasy, gritted his teeth in hatred upon hearing my voice. Staring at me with fierce eyes, he spoke, "Callista, you bitch, today not only will you die, your fox cub will die too." He immediately turned and attacked me and Ezra, whose eyes turned cold. Casting a protective barrier around me and the fox cub, he flew into a fierce fight with Corbin. A nine-tailed fox is indeed a nine-tailed fox. Its strength surpasses by more than just a little. Soon, Corbin was at a disadvantage, pierced through the chest by Ezra's sword, then sent crashing heavily near me with a single palm strike, though the sword missed slightly, because I still had words to say to him. For safety, Ezra also crippled his limbs. I stepped out of the barrier and handed the yowling fox cub to Ezra to hold, then I walked over and crouched beside Corbin, whispering, "Corbin, aren't you curious how I gave birth to a six-tailed blue fox in my past life? After all, you're just a three-tailed green fox." Corbin stared at me with wide eyes. "Because I'm also a nine-tailed fox, yet you killed him." As I spoke, I released my 9 fox tails. "I'm possible," Corbin muttered in disbelief as he stared at the 9 tails. "Tch. And about my sister's previous life being able to bear an 8-tailed fox, that's only because her husband was actually a natural-born 8-tailed fox. Oh right, one more thing, you didn't actually think just some forbidden technique alone could produce a 9-tailed fox, did you?" Hearing this, Corbin understood everything. From the moment Callista returned to the Fox King's palace from the Divine Mountain, all of this was just a trap they had set, and he actually believed it. If it weren't for the trace of 9-tailed fox bloodline from Ezra protecting you, that child of yours would have been stillborn long before birth. Forbidden techniques are forbidden precisely because they're too evil and harmful, yet you treat it as divine magic. Using it yourself wasn't enough, it was also used on the child and elder sister. Corbin, you abandoned the righteous path to practice forbidden arts, even sacrificing your own flesh and blood. You're the one harming others and yourself, deceiving yourself, and utterly useless. Therefore, whether in past lives or this one, the one who most deserves to die is you, Corbin." As soon as I finished speaking, Corbin's eyes suddenly shut tight, a tear streaming from the corner. Then, as he opened his eyes as if to say something, blood spurted from his mouth the moment he spoke. His eyes widened abruptly, his body convulsed a few times before going still, dead with eyes unclosed. Oh, I hadn't even made a move yet. Corbin died with the unwillingness, resentment, regret, and inferiority complex in his heart, and I finally did it for my past self and child. I avenged those clansmen who died tragically. I stood up and walked towards Ezra and the fox cub with a smile. From this life onward, every day will be filled with joy. Ezra and I will spend the rest of our lives in happiness. Story 2. A wave of zombies broke out, and my whole family abandoned me to flee for their lives. I finally caught up with them. But there were only 5 seats left in the rescue helicopter. In order to save her beloved dog, my sister-in-law pushed me off with a shove. Your life is not as precious as Coco's. If you take a seat, where will Coco sit? My parents watched coldly, and my younger brother clapped his hands in approval. Zombies surrounded me from a distance and roared as they bit me to death alive. After I died, my soul followed them to the shelter. I watched as they used the instant noodles I had desperately snatched to exchange for a good place to live, with no worries about food and drink. When I opened my eyes again, I found that I had been reborn, and I also awakened an apocalypse system that would free me from worries about food, drink, and the threat of zombies. This time, I will move into a luxurious villa, enjoy delicacies from various countries, make all the zombies work for me, and punish this vicious and biased family. 1. A dozen or so main dishes, including abalones, lobsters, and braised pork, were spread out on the table. My mother kept picking food for my sister-in-law, saying, "Hope, you've just conceived Donovan's child. You need to eat more." "Thank you, Mom." Upon hearing this, my sister-in-law picked up a huge pork shank and started eating heartily. I looked at the bright red shreds of meat in her bowl, but felt a spasm in my stomach and couldn't help but want to vomit. Every bite of meat she took seemed as if it were biting into my own body. The pain of being eaten alive and dissected was still vivid in my mind. I couldn't believe it. I had really been reborn. I was reborn on the very day when the city was surrounded by zombies. The sound of the news broadcast on the living room TV rang out. Early this morning, a vicious biting incident occurred in the city center hospital. The suspect was delirious and seriously injured more than a dozen doctors and patients. He has now been transferred to a psychiatric hospital. Recently, there have been many vicious incidents on the streets. We urge all citizens to go out less and be more cautious. In my previous life, it was after watching this news that I kindly reminded my family that it was quite chaotic outside recently and that we should stock up on more food at home just in case. It would be better to eat less of a sumptuous feast like this one today, however. My good intentions were misinterpreted by them. My mother pointed at my nose and said that I had a jinx's mouth and couldn't say anything good, and that I was ruining my sister-in-law's good day. My younger brother and sister-in-law looked at me with disgust on their faces and threatened that they would rather feed the food on the table to the dog than give me a single bite. My father, as always, was indifferent. He drank his small cup of wine by himself and said that it was indeed true that my mother hadn't taught me well, and that having a daughter was both useless and troublesome. Later, they chased me off the dining table while they feasted. I was really worried, so I smashed open the piggy bank where I had saved my spare change for several years and went out to a nearby supermarket, hoping to buy some convenient food that was easy to store. However, due to the news, several nearby supermarkets were completely cleared out. After walking for a long time, I finally managed to grab 2 bags of instant noodles in a small supermarket. When I got downstairs to my home, a large number of residents were rushing out, and helicopters and rescue vehicles were picking them up in batches. I could have left directly, but when I saw that the lights in my house were still on, I rushed back to the door of my house against the flow of people. At this time, the door of the house was wide open. My sister-in-law, holding the dog, rushed out first, and my father and mother protected my younger brother and walked behind. They didn't even think of the fact that I hadn't escaped yet. It was only when they saw me that my mother cursed. "You damned girl has a really tough life. You still haven't died." They snatched the instant noodles from my hand. My sister-in-law found it troublesome to hold the dog and threw the dog to me. I had no choice but to run outside with my family. When we saw the rescue helicopter, we realized that there weren't enough seats in the helicopter. If the 5 of us sat in it, there wouldn't be room for the dog. My sister-in-law gave me a look of disgust, reached out and grabbed the dog, and then kicked me off the helicopter. Not a single person in the whole family came to my rescue. They just watched as I fell off the helicopter. Not far away, the out-of-control zombie horde was gradually approaching. I, who was left behind, would surely be torn to pieces and bitten to death. In extreme pain, I became the food of the zombies bite by bite. After losing consciousness, my soul didn't disappear immediately. Instead, it followed my family, and I saw them taking a helicopter to the shelter. There, they used the 2 bags of instant noodles I had bought to exchange for a decent place to live. Every day, there was enough food and water for them to survive. My soul was filled with unwillingness. Before it dissipated, a voice claiming to be the apocalypse system awakened within me. I was reborn, and I also had a system that would keep me free from worries about food, drink, and danger in the apocalypse. This time, not only do I want to live a wonderful life in this zombie apocalypse, but I also want this biased and vicious family to pay the price and meet a bad end, too. My thoughts returned to the present. I watched as my sister-in-law took big bites of the pork shank, with oil dripping from her mouth. I deliberately stared at her without blinking, pretending to be extremely greedy. Sure enough, my sister-in-law stopped chewing, glanced at me, and complained to my mother, saying, "Mom, look at her, her saliva is almost dripping onto the table, it's making me lose my appetite." My mother threw down her chopsticks and pointed at my nose. "Jade, are you doing this on purpose? Don't you know that your sister-in-law is carrying our family's offspring? You should be satisfied with having plain rice to eat. What are you looking at? If you keep looking, I'll gouge out your eyes." As she spoke, she quickly moved the plates of meat dishes closer to me, even further away. I couldn't reach the dishes before, and now I could really only eat plain rice. At the dining table in my family, I've always been not allowed to eat much. In my mother's words, as a girl, I'm naturally a burden and a waste of food. However, since my younger brother married my sister-in-law, although she is also a girl, my mother loves her because of my younger brother. Not only can she eat whatever she wants, but she also doesn't have to do any housework on a daily basis. My mother keeps saying that she needs to give birth to a precious grandson for the Donovan family and can't be tired or hungry. Now that my sister-in-law is really pregnant, the whole family treats her like a treasure. Whenever she is a little unhappy, she takes it out on me. Sure enough, when my sister-in-law saw that my mother was scolding me on her behalf, she looked extremely proud, her eyes rolled around, and she saw Coco begging for food at the corner of the table. Coco is a bichon frise. My sister-in-law loves it very much on a daily basis. In the family, even Coco has a higher status than me. My sister-in-law leaned close to my younger brother and whispered something to him. My younger brother laughed heartily after hearing it. "Ha, that's a great idea." As he spoke, he called Coco over, stood up, picked up a large basin of meat, and poured it directly onto the ground. Coco barked happily and started eating the meat voraciously. Only then did my younger brother look at me proudly, looking down on me. "Jade, aren't you greedy? Watch carefully. The food in our family, I'd rather feed it to the dog than give you a single bite. You made my wife feel sick. You, a burden, still want to eat good food. You're daydreaming." I watched as he poured plate after plate of meat dishes onto the ground. On the surface, I showed an expression of great distress, kept swallowing my saliva, and pleaded with my younger brother, "Brother, can you leave some for me? Leave some for me. I'm so hungry, just one bite is enough." But in my heart, I sneered, "It's good that you're pouring it all out. I just want none of you in this family to be able to eat it. This is the last good meal you guys will ever have in your lives. When the zombies come and supplies are in short supply, I'm afraid you won't even be able to eat dog food." My parents watched my younger brother's absurd actions. Not only did they not stop him, but my mother even praised him. Donovan is right. It's better to feed it to our dog son than to the burden." In the end, the delicious dishes on the table were either eaten by Coco after being poured on the ground or were carelessly eaten and wasted cleanly by my younger brother and sister-in-law. After the meal, the whole family lay on the sofa with their bellies full. Naturally, I was the only one left to do the dishes and clean up. They ignored the mess on the dining table, ate sunflower seeds, and started watching TV. While washing the dishes in the kitchen, I listened to the conversation in the living room. In my previous life, as soon as I saw the news on TV, I told them to stock up on supplies. This time, without my reminder, they didn't notice the news until they had rested for a while after the meal. My mother was a bit worried, saying, "The vicious injury incidents mentioned on the TV are really quite scary." Just now, an expert also said that citizens are advised to go out less during this period and stock up on more food at home. Should we also go and buy some? My younger brother sneered upon hearing this. An expert is nothing. You guys are so easily brainwashed by this kind of news. One minute it's about a war, and the next it's about a natural disaster. It's all just rumors. As far as I'm concerned, this is a conspiracy to deliberately boost consumption. I will definitely not follow the trend and stock up on supplies." My father nodded in agreement and pretended to be profound, saying, "Donovan is right. You have a good head on your shoulders, just like me." My younger brother was proud and touched my sister-in-law's belly, sighing, "The baby Hope is carrying must be a son. We can't have a daughter, or else she'll be as stupid as my sister and will only end up with a life of doing laundry and sweeping the floor in the future. That's for sure. It must be a big, chubby boy." My sister-in-law leaned against my younger brother's shoulder, looking very happy. I looked at this self-righteous family, where they couldn't see. I took out my phone to check. I opened the community group chat and there were already over 999 messages in it. Many people said that they had seen government rescue vehicles and helicopters evacuating the surrounding communities, and that the nearby supermarkets had long been cleared out. Now, it was extremely difficult to buy convenient food. My parents thought it was too troublesome and didn't join the community group at all. I had always been the one to deal with these trivial matters at home. So they were still enjoying a peaceful life at the moment and had no idea about the turmoil happening in the community. I calculated the time. It was almost time for the community staff to knock on doors from house to evacuate the residents. I deliberately turned the water on to the maximum. The sound of the rushing water caught my mother's attention. She cursed angrily, "You damned girl, turning the water on so big. Don't you know water costs money?" I was so scared that I panicked, and the plate in my hand accidentally fell to the ground and shattered into pieces. Sorry, I'll clean it up right away." I hurriedly brought over the vacuum cleaner and turned it on. Immediately, a huge noise from the vacuum cleaner rang out. As I lowered my head to clean up the debris, the corners of my mouth curled into a smile. Naturally, I dropped the plate on purpose, aiming to create a huge noise with the vacuum cleaner. Amidst my mother's scolding, I indeed saw my sister-in-law impatiently touching her belly as she got up from the sofa, pulled my younger brother, and closed the door to return to the master bedroom. The sound of fetus education music came from inside. Since getting pregnant, my sister-in-law has become even more averse to noise. I deliberately turned on the vacuum cleaner just to force her back to the room. After all, with me being the only one left in the living room, the staff who came to knock on the door and give the reminder could be easily deceived by me and sent away. Not long after my sister-in-law went back to the room, my parents also got bored sitting in the living room. They had always disliked me and didn't want to be in the same space as me. After a while, they also went back to their room. As I had hoped, the living room was now empty, with only me diligently doing the cleaning. I used the vacuum cleaner for a while and then let the water make a rushing sound. I pretended to be doing the cleaning seriously, but in fact, I was stalling for time. I still hadn't finished cleaning after a long time, and my mother opened the door and scolded me again. "Are you never going to finish today? Why is it taking you so long?" I wiped the floor that I had already wiped 3 times with a wronged expression, looking innocent. "Mom, today the dishes were all poured on the ground, and cocoa licked oil all over the place. I have to clean it up properly." My mother snorted, seemingly accepting this explanation. She glanced at me and told me to hurry up, or else she would cause trouble for me. After saying that, she slammed the bedroom door shut and went back to the room to watch short videos. As expected, after a while, the door was knocked on violently. I quickly went to the door and opened it. I saw 2 fully armed staff members who reminded us to go out immediately and evacuate in an orderly manner. I nodded and said that I was the only one at home and that I would pack up and leave right away. After closing the door, I soothed Coco, who was barking, listening to the neighbors who were hurriedly following the staff's footsteps and leaving in the corridor behind the door. I locked the door from the inside and continued to pretend to be doing things in the living room while humming a song. If I let this family evacuate so easily and then smoothly enter the shelter and live a peaceful life, how could I enjoy the show? 3. I cleaned the house from the inside out. Of course, anything that could be eaten was disposed of as garbage by me. I made sure that they couldn't find even a little bit of food. I knew the rules of the shelter from my previous life. For the people who went in to take refuge, if they had extra supplies in their hands and handed them over to the shelter, they could exchange them for better living conditions. Secondly, the choice of accommodation was on a first-come, first-served basis. In other words, those who could arrive first and had more supplies in their hands could obtain a good environment in the shelter. Those who went there late would naturally find that all the good accommodations had been divided up. At that time, you would need to have more supplies to exchange with others in order to get a decent place to live. In a nutshell, time was money, and those who could enter first would naturally take full advantage. In my previous life, my parents took my younger brother and sister-in-law and rushed there early, regardless of my life or death. They also obtained a good place to live by relying on the 2 large bags of instant noodles I had snatched. This time, without my advanced stockpiling of supplies and with me deliberately delaying their escape time, I wanted to see how they would suffer in the shelter. It was only when the loudspeaker downstairs in the community sounded, repeatedly broadcasting to remind all the residents in the building to evacuate, that my parents realized something was wrong. They knocked on the door and called my younger brother and sister-in-law out of the room. The whole family stood on the balcony and looked down. Behind the fully armed staff, there were rescue vehicles parked in full, and search and rescue helicopters were flying in the sky. The surrounding residents rushed to get on the vehicles one after another, afraid that they would miss their chance if they were too late. My father turned around and slapped me, saying, "You jinx, for such a big thing, why didn't you remind us?" I pointed at the mop in my hand with a wronged expression, saying, "Dad, I've been doing the cleaning all this time and really didn't notice. My mother grabbed my hair and took her anger out on me, saying, "If you want to die, then go and die by yourself. Why are you dragging our whole family down with you? It's all your fault for having a jinx's mouth. It's all your fault that we're so unlucky." My sister-in-law hugged my younger brother in a panic, saying, "Donovan, what should we do? The vehicles are almost leaving. We won't be left behind, will we?" My younger brother pushed her away and kept waving downstairs. "Over here, look over here, we haven't left yet." There were too many people downstairs, and the scene was chaotic and noisy. It wasn't until my father joined my younger brother in shouting that the staff noticed them. The staff immediately picked up a loudspeaker and shouted at us, "Residents on the upper floors should evacuate to the rooftop. There's still a helicopter waiting." The whole family rushed out of the house in a hurry. My parents protected my younger brother, and my sister-in-law held the dog in her arms. They rushed to the rooftop without stopping. At this time, the helicopter was already waiting, and the pilot urged that there wasn't enough time and they had to set off immediately. I tried to follow them, but my sister-in-law pushed me away. "What are you following for? There are only 5 seats. What would happen to my Coco if you took one?" My mother chimed in, "That's right, with you around. We'd have one more mouth to feed. Go away, don't drag us down." My father and younger brother didn't say anything. They were in a rush to board the helicopter and didn't even look at me once, as if I wasn't their family member. I looked at the family who didn't care about me at all in the face of life and death. If in my previous life they abandoned me because they didn't pay attention, this time, I clearly had the chance to escape with them, yet they still didn't want to let me live. At this moment, the last bit of warmth I had for this family dissipated. They scrambled to get on the helicopter and looked down at me coldly, leaving me behind. In the distance, I could already hear the howling of the zombie horde. The pilot couldn't bear it and asked me one last time before taking off, "Little girl, there's still some room. Are you really not coming?" Facing desperate situations, many people revealed the ugly side of human nature. He had witnessed countless such disgraceful scenes these days, but he still wanted to save anyone he could. I smiled, grateful for the kindness from the stranger, and shook my head. "No, this family clearly doesn't need me. There's no point in living." The propellers started to spin, and the helicopter took off with a roar. As the whole family watched me standing there in the last moment, I heard them say, "Great, we finally got rid of this burden. Good riddance to that useless girl. Good that she's dead. Good riddance, haha." I walked slowly to the edge of the rooftop and jumped off. Below was group after group of zombies that had surrounded the place, but contrary to what my family expected, I wasn't swarmed and bitten to death. The moment the zombies saw me, they gathered around, holding their hands up to perfectly catch me as I jumped from the tall building. Not only did they not attack me, but they were even willing to harm themselves to protect me, the system said. "Congratulations, Master, for activating the Apocalypse system. The zombie control mode has been activated for you. Next, there are also the bountiful food mode, perfect residence mode, and endless entertainment mode. Which one would you like to activate?" I smiled faintly. "Then let's start by finding a luxurious villa, fill it with food and drinks, so I can lie back and watch the show." The good play was finally about to begin, arranged by the system. I moved into a luxurious villa with more than a dozen rooms. The villa came with a rooftop swimming pool, a full-set PS5 game room, an indoor KTV, a sauna and hot spring room, and so on. When I got bored, I could go out of the villa and take a walk in the landscape garden, which was as big as a basketball court. There were fountains, rockeries, small bridges over flowing water, and tall walls that blocked the zombie horde outside. This paradise-like place stood in sharp contrast to the devastated world outside. I sat at the exquisite Western dining table in the living room, eating the sirloin steak prepared for me by the system. I raised a glass of 1982 Lafite red wine and took a sip. In the storage cabinet not far away, there were delicacies from various countries, whether it was Indian cuisine, Brazilian cuisine, French cuisine, Japanese cuisine, Korean cuisine, as long as I called the system. The corresponding dishes would immediately appear out of thin air. I didn't have to worry about food and drink at all. I picked up the remote control of the projector, the screen came down, and the lights in the living room dimmed automatically. On the screen of the home theater, the live scenes of my parents, younger brother, and sister-in-law in the shelter were being played automatically. Yes. I specifically asked the system to broadcast their live situations to the screen in front of me at any time, to amuse myself during the boring days when the city was surrounded by zombies. No TV drama or game plot was more interesting than watching this group of evil people suffer. At this time, they were slinking off the helicopter, because of their heinous act of abandoning their own daughter. The pilot was very dissatisfied with them, as soon as they arrived near the shelter. He couldn't wait to urge them to get off the helicopter. The place where they landed was not a completely safe area. The family was so scared by the roars of the zombies in the distance that they scrambled into the shelter, afraid that if they were a second slower, they would be bitten by the zombies. My younger brother was in such a hurry that he accidentally tripped over a wooden board at the entrance and fell to the ground, scraping his knee. My mother immediately helped my younger brother up. Looking at the fingernail-sized wound on his knee with concern, "Son, does it hurt? Let Mom take a good look." Whenever my younger brother got the slightest scratch, my mother would cry and fret over him. She completely forgot that she had another daughter who was abandoned by her. If it weren't for the system, that daughter would have been eaten alive by zombies. After making sure my younger brother was okay, they finally had time to look at the shelter in front of them. This was one of the numerous shelters in Jing City, built temporarily and able to accommodate about 1,000 people. Most of the people in this shelter were residents from our community and the neighboring community. When the staff saw the new arrivals, they came forward to register. "How many of you are there?" Four. My mother answered hastily. The staff glanced at Coco in my sister-in-law's arms. Food is distributed according to the number of people. Pets are generally allowed in, but there's no extra food for them. My sister-in-law immediately got anxious. "How can that be? Coco eats steak at home. Can't you give us one more portion of food?" The staff frowned and looked coldly at my sister-in-law's unreasonable behavior. "No, food is limited, and everything must be in accordance with the regulations." My younger brother and sister-in-law were used to being willful. Whenever they didn't get their way, they would start cursing. "This is outrageous. Just because you're a staff member, you think you're so high and mighty, you can't just have the final say." My mother also sighed beside them. "Sigh, I should have brought Jade with us. She could have gone without food, and we could have given her share to Coco." I sneered. Now they remembered me. It was wishful thinking to use my food to feed their dog. The family's unreasonable behavior drew the dissatisfaction of the people around them. "Hey, who do we have here? Isn't this the family that abandoned their own daughter?" "Oh, the family from Building 10. I've seen heartless people, but never one as heartless as them. I say, people like this shouldn't even be allowed into the shelter. Evil people seem to live forever." The whispers of criticism made the whole family lose face. The staff also learned about their rascality. After asking a few more questions according to the regulations and finding that they had no extra food to hand over, the staff waved their hand and assigned them to the worst area. The 4-member Donovan's family go to Area F. As for where to live, you can choose for yourselves. The staff left with a cold snort. When my parents led my younger brother and sister-in-law to Area F, they realized it was the worst area. There were just a few pieces of cardboard erected temporarily as partitions. There were no beds, just 4 tattered cotton mats on the ground. Living here, the family had no privacy at all, let alone the comfort of good food and accommodation. "Mom, do we really have to live here?" "Why, in Area F, we not only have to sleep on the ground, but our location is also the dirtiest and smelliest in the whole area." My younger brother couldn't help it. He pinched his nose to block the smell of the public toilet right in front of their living place, since they arrived the latest. Even the better places in Area F had been taken. Now the place where the family lived was unwanted and reeked of the public toilet. My sister-in-law fanned the foul air in front of her nose and made several gagging motions. "It's all your sister's fault, that jinx. If it weren't for her delaying us, we might have gotten a good place if we had come earlier. It doesn't matter if I smell bad, but I'm carrying the precious grandson of the Donovan family. If anything happens to him, her 10 lives wouldn't be enough to make up for it." Hearing this, my mother gritted her teeth in anger. "That damned girl deserves to die. Fortunately, she's surely dead by now. Otherwise, I'd skin her alive to vent my anger." Okay, stop arguing. I'm hungry after all this toss. Someone go and find something to eat." My father lay down on the cotton mat, choosing a spot by the side, the furthest from the stinky place. He put his hands behind his head and started ordering people around. While this family was suffering, I, whom they thought was already dead, was comfortably sitting on a 1.8-meter Simmons soft bed, enjoying the second round of supper prepared by the system. On the movable dining table were a 12-inch Hawaiian pizza, Korean-style fried chicken, and a full glass of iced cola. As I wished, the screen had been moved to the white wall of the spacious master bedroom for projection, watching them hungry, with pale faces from the stench of the toilet. I leisurely took out a bottle of Jo Malone perfume and sprayed it. The fresh scent of a forest after rain. It was very pleasant. Food distribution in the shelter was limited, and it was only distributed twice a day at fixed times. Those who missed the time wouldn't get any. By the time this family finished arguing over who should go to get the food, it was long past the distribution time. In the past, I was always the one they ordered around to do such troublesome errands. Now, without me, My father and younger brother were used to being idle, and my sister-in-law, relying on my younger brother's support, refused to suffer any losses, so the unpleasant task fell on my mother. My mother, with a thick face, begged the staff to make an exception and give them the food they missed due to the fact that there was a pregnant woman in the family. The staff said matter-of-factly, "The regulations state that those who miss the time won't get any food." My mother didn't give up. She grabbed the staff's arm flatteringly. "If getting the food after the time isn't possible, can I get it in advance? I'll get tomorrow's portion." The staff shook off her hand angrily. "Except for the free food distribution on the first day, food will become increasingly scarce in the future. People have to earn their food through labor. The shelter won't distribute food to those who make no contribution. Don't even think about it." My mother returned to their living place dejectedly. Empty-handed, my father and younger brother each kicked her out. My father, unable to get any food, pointed at my mother and cursed angrily, "Just like your damned daughter, you're useless too. Go out and get some food right now. Don't come back without it." My mother had no choice but to go out again, begging neighbors door to door for some food, but with the city surrounded by zombies, supplies were in short supply. Food and water were the capital for survival. Who would be so kind as to give away their own scarce food? Moreover, since my parents, younger brother, and sister-in-law had started arguing with the staff as soon as they arrived, now everyone knew that they were a heartless family who had left their daughter to die. No one was willing to be nice to them or give them any food. Naturally, my mother came back empty-handed and was scolded by the whole family for a long time. She was also driven to sleep on the outermost bed. The closest to the toilet, the family lay on the ground, hungry. My younger brother looked at the ceiling and smacked his lips. Sigh, "I should have eaten more at lunch." My sister-in-law's stomach also rumbled. She stroked Coco's head beside her and sighed. "Yeah, we gave most of the food to Coco. Now that I think about it, I feel so bad." My mother remained silent, not daring to say anything, amidst the continuous sighs. I saw my father looking at Coco with a glint in his eye. The family was thus hungry for a day and a night. Logically speaking, if one works harder in the shelter, they can also get enough food to eat. But my younger brother and father were used to living an easy life. At home, they were used to being served. The two of them were only willing to order others around and didn't want to do any work themselves, since the men in the family were unwilling to work. And my sister-in-law was pregnant and considered too precious to work because she was carrying a son. The only one left who could work was my mother. She worked miserably among a group of men, doing carry work, but due to her old age and poor health, she sprained her back within just one morning. The family only exchanged their labor for a small piece of bread and half a bottle of drinking water. My father and younger brother ate most of the bread, and my sister-in-law drank all the water. By the time it was my mother's turn, there were only crumbs left. My mother licked her chapped lips and lay on the tattered bed, crying about her hard life. At this moment, she thought of me and sighed with a sad face. If that damned girl were here, she would surely leave me some food. I raised her so big, she wouldn't just watch her mother die, would she? I watched coldly. Her current fate was of her own making. Only when the slap lands on your own face do you know how much it hurts. The pain of being starved, ordered around, and insulted was something she could only understand when it happened to her. 5. I took my eyes off the screen and looked at the landscape garden in the distance. With the powerful help of the system, I had free-labored zombies to help me set up a barbecue party in the garden. The zombies worked in an orderly manner, conscientiously carrying heavy barbecue grills, camping tents, huge tomahawk steaks, whole roasted lambs, etc. In a short while, everything was set up, and then they left one by one in the direction of the gate. I sighed. These were truly green and recyclable resources, compared to my mother's hard work in the shelter, where she barely managed to expand the shelter a little. My ease here was beyond their wildest imagination. Finally, when night fell, under the beautiful night sky, I lit the bonfire and enjoyed this solo barbecue party. At the same time, my father set his sights on Coco, who was sleeping soundly beside my sister-in-law. His saliva was almost dripping. After I finished enjoying the deliciously roasted whole lamb and sat back in front of the screen with a fruit platter, my father had already snapped Coco's neck. The poor little dog let out a whimper and died. My sister-in-law woke up with a scream. "Coco, my baby, you have to pay for Coco's life." My sister-in-law hysterically fought with my father over Coco's body. Her sharp nails scratched several bloody marks on my father's arm. My younger brother stood there stunned, watching the argument between my sister-in-law and father, at a loss for what to do. My father glared fiercely and shouted at my younger brother, "Donovan, what are you standing there for? It's just a dog. If we kill it, we'll have something to eat." Upon hearing this, my younger brother, who had been hesitant, swallowed hard at the sight of the dog meat. He immediately understood the situation, and when he looked back at his wife, his eyes were filled with determination. Normally, when it didn't matter much, my younger brother was willing to indulge his wife, but now he was extremely hungry, and the temptation of filling his stomach by killing the dog was too great. He no longer cared about what his wife thought. My younger brother reached out and grabbed his wife's hair. She let go in pain and shouted, "Donovan, you coward, how dare you hit me?" Enraged by her words, my younger brother slapped her across the face. "You damned woman, don't you see the situation we're in? What's a dog? If I get desperate, I'll kill you too." My sister-in-law was frightened by the bloodlust in my younger brother's eyes and didn't dare to argue anymore. My father triumphantly dragged Coco by one leg, leaving a long trail of blood on the ground as he pulled the body towards a large pot in an open area. The fire had just been lit, and the water in the pot was boiling hot. My father threw Coco's body into it. After the water bubbled and boiled, the cooked dog meat was fished out. The enticing aroma drew the whole family around. My father and younger brother, ignoring the heat, were the first to tear off the dog legs and start gnawing, shouting how delicious it was as they ate. My mother carefully tore off some meat and put it in her mouth, chewing. The more she ate, the more she wanted, and her eyes narrowed with satisfaction. As for my sister-in-law, who had initially resisted, when she realized she wouldn't get any if she didn't start eating, she also started tearing at the dog meat and devouring it. Once she started, she couldn't stop. In the end, she was the one who grabbed and ate the most. With her mouth full of meat, she made excuses. "Anyway, I'm the one who raised Coco. It's only fair that I eat the most." What a hypocritical and beastly family. Wearing the guise of humanity, from the moment Coco was brought into the shelter, I knew this day would come. In essence, selfishness and hypocrisy were ingrained in their bones. What was the difference between their savage behavior and that of the flesh-eating zombies? I thought to myself that it was almost time to contact this family and give them a shock. After eating the dog meat, the family lay down contentedly with their bulging stomachs. My father smacked his lips, picked his teeth, and said, "This can't go on like this. We need enough food." My younger brother immediately shirked the responsibility. "I'm not going to work. I can't carry those heavy goods." My mother groaned, clutching her back, saying she couldn't do it either. My sister-in-law naturally refused as well, shouting, "I even sacrificed Coco. You should be grateful to me. It's not my turn to work now, right?" My father sighed. "Well, the food you get from working here isn't enough anyway. The best treatment in the shelter goes to the exploration teams that go out to find supplies. I heard that each of them gets several pieces of bread, plus meat and milk." My younger brother slumped and mumbled, "What's the use of envying them? None of us have the ability to fight the zombies outside." Just as they were worrying, my father noticed that his phone had a signal. "Hey, what? I suddenly have a video call." When he checked, he saw that it was me calling. My father's eyes widened. "Didn't Jade die a long time ago? Why is she calling?" My younger brother answered the call before him. "Whatever, let's answer it first." I deliberately made the call, intending to show this family my comfortable life now and set a trap for them. When the video connected, I was sitting in the luxurious living room of the villa. I deliberately adjusted the angle so that they could clearly see the abundant food behind me. I gracefully bit into a tomahawk steak, and the sound of me chewing made the whole family stare in envy. My father drooled so much that he stammered, "Jade, you're not dead. Where did you get so much food? Our whole family hasn't eaten for a day or two and has nothing to eat. Where are you? Tell Dad quickly." I pretended to be surprised, casually threw the tomahawk steak, which I had only taken one bite of, into the trash can, burped, and said, Dad, how could you have no food? I have so much delicious food here that I can't even finish it all. There are steaks, burgers, hot pot, barbecue. I can have whatever I want." My mother was anxious when she heard this. Seeing me living so well, she angrily scolded me, "You damned girl, are you doing this on purpose? Your parents and your brother are suffering outside, and you're enjoying yourself alone." I said pitifully, "Mom, you guys were the ones who left me behind, but I really should thank you." Shortly after your helicopter left, another one came to pick me up and brought me to this villa. They said this is a high-end shelter, where one person can have an entire villa and never worry about food or drink. My younger brother pushed my mother aside, annoyed that she was blocking the phone screen. His eyes were fixed on the steak I had thrown into the trash can. He swallowed and asked, "You can eat tomahawk steaks anytime you want." My father slapped him and said impatiently, "What a pathetic sight." Then he looked at me with an uncharacteristically pleasant expression. "Jade, I've been a responsible father to you, right? I've never hit or scolded you, have I?" I thought to myself, not hitting or scolding is considered being responsible. It's too easy to be a father like that. I smiled and said, "Dad has always been good to me." Good, Jade. For the sake of our family, tell Dad how to get to this shelter and where it is." I knew my father had taken the bait and lied. It shouldn't be far from you, at most 3 kilometers, but it's very dangerous on the way here. There are zombies everywhere, and you need someone to escort you. Dad will figure it out. Just send me the address. I nodded and sent him a random address on my phone. This is the location of my shelter, Dad. I'll be waiting for you. After hanging up, I continued to watch the screen. My father looked at the address on his phone, his hand trembling. We're saved, we're saved. After the initial excitement, he felt extremely resentful. Come to think of it, why does that jinx Jade get to be in such a high-end shelter while we're stuck in this lousy place? He stood up abruptly. The more he thought about it, the angrier he got. I'm not convinced. I'm going to find the leader. My father left the shelter holding his phone and headed straight for the central area of the shelter, trying to find the highest-ranking person in charge. He didn't notice that his phone had already lost its signal, and the so-called address I sent him couldn't be refreshed at all. This was, of course, the work of my system. This stupid family of mine didn't stop to think that with the city surrounded by zombies, the signal towers had long since fallen. And there was no one to maintain the network signal. No, the only way to communicate between shelters was through military satellite phones. When my father found the person in charge, Cedric, he was arranging the latest search mission for the exploration team. My father shouted recklessly, Leader Cedric, I need to talk to you. Leader Cedric frowned and motioned for the staff blocking my father to move aside, allowing my father to approach. My father was excited, his face filled with indignation. Leader, why do some people have an endless supply of food and live in big villas in their shelters, while we can only sleep on the floor? The resource allocation is so unfair. I want to apply to transfer to another shelter. Upon hearing my father's words, Leader Cedric's expression changed dramatically. What nonsense are you talking? In a state of war readiness, there's no shelter with such conditions. There's a limit to your unreasonable behavior. My father stamped his foot and raised his voice, trying to attract more attention. You're hiding the truth from us. I saw it with my own eyes. In the shelter where my daughter is, there's plenty of food and drink. The food is piled up like a mountain. It's nothing like here, where we have to work to get a piece of cold bread every day. My father's words caused an uproar. The people around him looked over and started whispering. Aren't the supplies in the shelters uniformly distributed? Is it true that there's so much food as he said? Could it be a place for the privileged class? Are they still showing special treatment in the apocalypse? My father's words caused a commotion. Leader Cedric asked the staff to give him a loudspeaker and address the crowd. What he said is completely unfounded. Don't believe him. There are always troublemakers like him who want to undermine unity. My father continued to shout, You're the liar. I saw it with my own eyes. It's just 3 kilometers away. Seeing that my father was still stubborn, Leader Cedric ordered his men to take him away. We don't need to protect people who undermine unity. Cancel all his food and water supplies. My father was carried away by 2 burly staff members. He struggled and tried to fight back, but was kicked to the ground by each of them. He groaned, clutching his stomach, seemingly seriously injured. My father was locked up alone in a tiny surveillance room where he could barely turn around. He went from initially shouting in defiance to finally crouching down in despair. This man, who was used to being domineering at home and threatening me with his fists, finally experienced the threat of force he couldn't resist and now felt the helplessness of the weak. My father crouched on the ground, looking remorseful. Please don't lock me up. I just want something to eat. Just give me something to eat. 6. When the news of my father being locked up spread, the family reacted differently. My mother looked relieved, as there was one less person oppressing her. My younger brother was a bit regretful, but he didn't have the courage to oppose the entire shelter for his father's sake. He could only mutter, Forget it, the old man has lived long enough anyway. My sister-in-law's expression was hard to read. Her eyes glanced at the exploration team preparing to leave the shelter. Most of the men in the team were soldiers, single, strong, and more importantly, they had good treatment in the shelter with no worries about food and drink. At night, my mother couldn't fall asleep. My younger brother was sleeping soundly on his back, mumbling about roast duck and chicken legs in his dreams. My sister-in-law said she was going to the toilet, but she didn't come back for a long time. I asked the system to call my mother. When the phone rang, my mother hesitated for a few seconds and finally answered. She gritted her teeth and said in a low voice, Jade, it's all your fault that your father is almost dead. Now she pretended to be very concerned about my father and shifted the blame to me. I was used to her twisting the truth, pretending to be sad. I replied, What happened to Dad? How could it be so serious? It's all because you encouraged your father to leave the shelter. Now he's been beaten up and locked up by the leader, I said pitifully, but I didn't know Dad would be in such a hurry. I also said that if it's inconvenient for you to come here, I have another way for you to get food. My mother's eyes lit up at the mention of food. What kind of food? don't you dare lie to me, Mom, I'm your own daughter, blood is thicker than water, how could I lie to you? My mother snorted, at least you have some sense. Tell me, where can we find food? I had already arranged for the system to place some edible cans in a certain area of their shelter. Of course, these cans were not ordinary meat cans but were prepared to give them a surprise. I lowered my voice and pretended to be mysterious. Mom, don't tell anyone about this. I heard that many senior officials in the shelters hide cans. You can look around the entrance and exit of the shelter. Even if a place looks unimpressive but has a special mark, there might be cans hidden there. My mother was still skeptical. How do you know all this? I said innocently. Maybe it's because my shelter is more advanced and has more information. Mom, just go and take a look. If you find something, you'll know I'm not lying. When people are in a state of long-term hunger, they tend to lose their rationality. After hanging up, my mother tossed and turned for a while, then suddenly got up and decided to check it out. It was late at night, and most people in the shelter had already turned off the lights and gone to sleep. Only those who came out to use the toilet from time to time were still walking around. Although there were staff guarding the entrance of the shelter, no one could really guard against the zombies, and it was mostly for show. It was almost time for the shift change, and the guards were starting to doze off. My mother took the opportunity to search around the entrance. Finally, under a trash can marked with a triangle, she found a hidden compartment. She pulled away the plastic panel of the compartment and saw 4 or 5 boxes of neatly stacked meat cans underneath. There really is food, my mother couldn't help but exclaim, then quickly covered her mouth and lowered her voice. She quickly picked up the cans, hid them in her coat, and happily rushed back to the shelter. I watched as my mother couldn't wait to open a can and started eating the meat with her hands. Delicious. That damned girl didn't lie to me. There really is meat. I sneered as I watched my mother eat with oil dripping from her mouth. Eat up, eat as much as you want. This might well be your last meal. Although there were only 5 cans, my mother has always doted on her precious son. Before she had eaten much herself, she quickly woke my younger brother up. Son, wake up, hurry up and wake up. My younger brother woke up groggily. As soon as he saw the food, he immediately exclaimed, Mom, where did you get this? My mother immediately motioned for him to lower his voice. Keep it down. There are only a few cans. Hurry up. Fortunately, your useless wife isn't here. Let's share them between the 2 of us. My younger brother nodded vigorously. Right. Don't give her any. That bitch doesn't know where she's gone. If she doesn't come back in the middle of the night, she must have gone to find another man since she knows we have nothing to eat. My mother also said angrily, if it weren't for the baby she's carrying, I would have kicked her out long ago. As my younger brother ate the canned meat, he mumbled, that's right, women are all good for nothing. My mother mindlessly agreed with everything my younger brother said, nodding along without realizing that she was also insulting herself. After the 2 of them were full, my younger brother licked his lips, still savoring the taste. Mom, why does this meat taste so good? It's much more incense than the canned food I've eaten before. My mother smiled and affectionately patted my younger brother on the head. Silly boy, we haven't had anything good to eat in the past day or 2. Of course it tastes good. The 2 of them fell asleep happily hugging the cans of meat. It wasn't until the middle of the night that the sound of a woman's heavy breathing came from the toilet in front of their shelter. The familiar voice woke my younger brother up instantly. He held his breath and listened for a while, then his eyes widened suddenly, and the veins on his forehead stood out. Damn it, that must be Hope's voice. He stood up quickly and walked out of the shelter, not caring about the smell. He pushed open the door of the toilet. In the toilet, filthy water was everywhere, but it couldn't hide the scandalous scene. The person with my sister-in-law in the toilet cubicle was a burly male member of the exploration team. You two, you have no shame. My younger brother was furious when he caught them in the act. Only then did my sister-in-law open her eyes. When she saw my younger brother, a look of disgust crossed her face. I wondered who it was. Isn't this the useless filial son? My younger brother clenched his fists. But knowing he couldn't beat the male team member, he cowered like a quail, yet his eyes were threatening. Aren't you afraid of retribution? You're still carrying my son. My sister-in-law laughed dismissively. What retribution? The zombies are here. Isn't that the biggest retribution? If we're all going to die, I just want to find a more capable man. The male team member was pleased and became even more enthusiastic. My younger brother was angry for a long time. Realizing he couldn't compete with the male team member, he had an idea. Before leaving the toilet, he threatened, you look down on me. Ha, just you wait. My younger brother had been pampered since childhood and had never suffered. Now, seeing his wife taken away by another man, how could he swallow his anger? Without hesitation, he went back to the shelter and took out the cans, wanting to prove that he was capable and at least able to get meat to eat. My younger brother held up the can of meat in front of his wife. Look, I have meat. Does he? All he has is a few pieces of bread, right? My sister-in-law's expression changed. She asked in surprise, how could you possibly have canned meat? The male team member also stopped what he was doing and looked up at the can in my younger brother's hand. He snatched it away, sniffed it, and his face turned pale. Did you hide this meat? My younger brother didn't realize the danger he was in and was still showing off. Yeah, there aren't many people who have meat these days, right? I'm asking you, do you admit defeat? The male team member looked at my sister-in-law seriously. Did you know about this? My sister-in-law was quicker-witted and immediately sensed something was wrong. She quickly excused herself. I didn't know. This is all the Donovan family's business. The male team member nodded, pulled up his pants, gave my younger brother a few glances, and then left the toilet. My younger brother thought he had won and showed off to his wife. When it comes to strength, it's still me. Hope, I'm telling you, you'll definitely regret it if you leave me. For example, right now, I won't give you a single bite of this canned meat. As soon as they left the toilet and returned to the shelter, the male team member came with several staff members. Walking at the end was actually Leader Cedric, the highest-ranking person in charge. Leader Cedric looked at them coldly, called my sister-in-law, younger brother, and mother out to stand in line. After scanning them with his eyes for a while, he waved his hand and ordered the staff, search them. My mother immediately became anxious. This is outrageous. The leader is bullying the people. Why are you searching us without any reason? My younger brother chimed in. That's right. Pointing at the male team member, he said angrily. He's definitely taking revenge and framing good people. As a result, the staff found the remaining 3 cans in the shelter. As soon as they were taken out, they were handed to Leader Cedric. He sniffed them and then understood. His tone became even colder. This meat is problematic. Could it be? My mother's legs went weak with fright. My younger brother was also stunned, remembering how much he had eaten. He felt nauseous and wanted to vomit. The surrounding crowd had already gathered to watch the commotion. When they heard that my mother and younger brother had eaten human flesh, they became furious. They ate people. My God, how could there be such beasts in the shelter? What's the difference between people eating people and zombies eating people? Yeah, my daughter was eaten by zombies. I hate them. Maybe they've already been infected. What normal person would eat human flesh? The voices of the crowd grew louder and louder, and the staff could barely hold back the angry mob. Leader Cedric also looked at my younger brother and mother as if they were aliens. As for my sister-in-law, thanks to the male team member's protection, who stated that she wasn't aware of the situation, she was now leaning against the male team member's strong arm, staying out of the matter. At first, some people in the front of the crowd tentatively waved their fists and kicked out to vent their anger. Later, when my younger brother and mother were covered in blood, the bloody sight reminded more people of their family members who had recently been bitten to death by zombies. I want to avenge my family. People who eat others are traitors to humanity. More and more angry voices merged together. The uncontrollable crowd surged towards my younger brother and mother like a tide, and countless fists and kicks rained down on them. The irrational crowd didn't care about anything. In just a minute or two, my younger brother and mother were beaten to death. Watching all this in front of the screen, I felt no pity at all as I saw my younger brother and mother lying on the ground like mud, lifeless. I remembered that during the beating, my mother realized that I was the one behind the scheme. While enduring the intense pain, she used the most vicious language to curse me. Her expression was as if she wanted to devour me alive, but I never regretted it, because their current outcome was entirely their own doing. After being reborn, I didn't not give them opportunities, but they pushed me into the abyss again and again, choosing to abandon me just because they thought I was a burden. Originally, with the help of the system, I could have allowed them to live a life without worries about food and safety, a prosperous life. They were the ones who chose to push that opportunity away. As for my sister-in-law, I can still clearly remember how, in the previous life, she sat arrogantly in the helicopter and deliberately pushed me out for the sake of a dog, causing me to be bitten to death by zombies. This woman, who is rotten to the core, I will punish her last. 7. Without the Donovan family as her backer, my sister-in-law latched onto the male team member and followed him to a more advanced residence. However, my sister-in-law was after all a woman who had been with someone else. After a few days of being with her, the male team member found her boring and wanted to dump her, but by then, my sister-in-law had no one else to rely on. For a bite of food, she knelt down and begged the male team member desperately, saying she would do anything for him and learn any tricks he wanted. In just 3 days, she had lost the arrogant look she used to have in front of my family and became a pitiful woman selling herself for survival. When I saw that she was on the verge of a mental breakdown, I called her when the male team member went out to search for supplies. When she saw my video call, she initially didn't want to answer, but after hesitating for a long time, she couldn't resist the temptation. When the video connected, Unlike when I deceived my parents, I didn't say anything ambiguous. I knew that my sister-in-law wasn't that easy to deceive. She was both evil and cunning to the bone. I looked at her indifferently. She was gaunt, with ragged clothes, while I, well-fed, had a healthy glow and was full of energy. My sister-in-law looked at me angrily. Why, how can you live so well? Why? I didn't say anything and just watched her lose her temper. She continued, wearing an expression as if she had seen through me. You deliberately killed your parents and younger brother. Didn't you? Do you also want to kill me? I'm telling you, no way. I'm not stupid. I smiled. Do you want to know why I'm living so well? She stared at me intently, and the jealous look in her eyes seemed to pierce through the screen. I clapped my hands, summoned the system, and said in front of my sister-in-law, System, I want to eat Peking duck, right now. So my sister-in-law watched in disbelief as a plate of exquisite Peking duck appeared out of thin air in front of me. The duck was sliced, the pancakes were chewy, and all the side dishes and condiments were complete. See, do you still think I'm in some ordinary shelter? My sister-in-law was stunned, her face full of disbelief. How is this possible? How can food just appear out of nowhere? Only then did I tell her word by word that I had been reborn, how her family had treated me in the previous life, and that my current luxurious life was all thanks to the help of the system on that day. After I detailed how, in the previous life without my interference, her family had lived in the shelter, my sister-in-law suddenly covered her head as if she was gradually remembering something. The huge shock caused her to gradually regain her memories. When her eyes cleared again, she looked at me in enlightenment. So that's it, so you were already dead, haha. I always said that a lowly person like you would never have a good ending, so you were reborn. As she spoke, she became more and more crazy. She rushed out of the shelter regardless of everything, and not even the staff could stop her determination to get out. Finally, to everyone's astonishment, my sister-in-law rushed out of the shelter gate. She shouted at the zombie horde in the distance, Come on, come and eat me. If you eat me, I can be reborn. I know what to do now. I can also live a good life. The staff in the shelter panicked, saying she had gone crazy, and quickly closed the gate again. As I wished, the screen switched to the outside of the shelter. The nearby wandering zombies soon noticed my sister-in-law and surrounded her, roaring as they approached. Just like me in the previous life, she was surrounded by countless zombies, their mouths wide open. They mercilessly bit into her flesh. It hurt so much. I regret it. In the intense pain, my sister-in-law came to her senses. She let out a scream and looked up at the sky with red eyes. Jade, I know you're watching. Save me, please save me. My sister-in-law's screams came through the screen one after another. In the previous life, when I was being bitten by zombies and on the verge of death, I also begged my family for help like this. At that time, I also desperately wanted someone to save me, but they had already left in the helicopter, leaving me alone to be devoured by the zombies. Now, why should I forgive my evil sister-in-law? So I turned off the screen. The remaining time was only mine. Whether this family lived or died no longer mattered to me. Shortly after my sister-in-law was torn apart by the zombie horde, my father also starved to death in the shelter due to a long-term lack of water and food. After they all died, every day I either ate and drank happily in the villa or arranged for the system to regularly drop supplies near various shelters without leaving a trace. Now many people call me the god of airdrops, saying this is a true miracle. Days passed like this, waiting for the day when humanity would develop a serum. By then, the world would thrive again.